So we've already had a lot of questions from the registration form, right? But that's like 100 questions. So let's try the Q&A from this one first. On protein from Dimitri. Hi, Dimitri. Dimitri streaming in from Moscow. I'm not eating insects, period. So do I. But how does insect protein powder compare to soy protein powder? How's...
Yeah, so texture-wise, it's it's similar. And for the taste itself, some insect taste kind of nutty, shrimp-like taste. It's depends. Like for example, the larva that we are using is more in the nutty side, and for cricket, it's more neutral. The powder itself, just like other protein powder, and for grasshopper, for example, it tastes like shrimp. And the funny thing is that Native American, when they first see shrimp, prawns, they say is that grasshopper of the sea. So it's basically a similar structure in the protein, and also I mean the taste is pretty similar. The protein content itself, if you have allergy for shellfish, it's most likely you also have the same effect of allergy from insects. That's how they close the protein structure there.
Okay, but I think Ronny have the solution for that one, right? Next, the question from Tante Indra. Dr. Sian, the psychology or culture of humans and foods is fascinating, and the possible changes that will happen with a new space mindset and environment. Do you foresee humans undergoing any physiological or biological changes or evolution if food forms or format change once we move into space?
Absolutely. I think that when eventually what's going to happen is, well, the culture of food is going to change. So as we go up into and permanently are on the moon and Mars, at first we're going to be supplying food there, but as we learn to grow our own food there and create our own moon or Martian cuisine, that is going to have psychological changes in the way the people that are experiencing that, how they view food and interact with food. And so their palate is going to evolve, and the way that they interact with their food is going to change because they're in less gravity. And so all kinds of things are going to happen. We can try to predict those things, but I'm excited to see what the next 50 years is going to bring in this area. But the food will change how we are developing and interacting, and our culture and association with it. And I'm hoping that I live long enough so that we can ship some of the moon cuisine or Mars cuisine back to Earth, so I can try, Martian takeout or moon takeout one of these days. And you can imagine that happening.
Okay. Wow. Next question from the budget Kalita. Is it only freeze drying? Okay. Is it only freeze drying that is suitable criteria for space food, or is there anything else?
No, you can use anything. That the main thing is that it's got to be shelf stable for right now, because ideally freeze dried, the advantage to that is it takes out the weight. And so, but any packaged food that's sitting on the shelf in a grocery store that can stay on that shelf for a couple of years will qualify, whether it's dehydrated, whether it's processed to be that way, or if it's freeze dried. It doesn't matter. The key is shelf stable and reduced microbial growth, so that your chances of getting sick from it are reduced.
Okay. Another one from Dimitri. Training cosmonauts or astronauts, Russians are brought up on porridge and soup for obvious northern country limitation. These food have unfavorable taste and textures. How can years of deprivation help prepare space travels?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that that's one of the things is that if you're a foodie, you're going to have a harder time going to space because you're going to be thinking about food a lot. And so, how much can we train that out of people? How much can we prepare people to do things like eat insects? I mean, and to cook with insect powder and things like that. And I think one of the things about it is most people would be able to eat a lot of the food around the world if they didn't know what they were eating. And so if you think about blindfolded eating, and so our brain getting over our psychological ties to and our thoughts about our food and what we like and don't like is part of the struggle. And I think Chef William would agree with this, that there are ways you can get over that though, through spices and taste and textures. And again, if you don't know what the main ingredients are that you're eating, most of it we'd probably enjoy.
Yep, true. Don't even write it on the tube.
Exactly. Don't tell me that it's an insect worm. Just give me that cookie. I was like, I'm like,
butter, there's cooking oil and the butter.
Just label it oil and let's go from there.
Yeah.
But I think that is one of the things when we're thinking about who to send and why. It'll be an interesting question from a psychology standpoint of how much, because then there were people who they just eat because they to survive. They're not foodies. When living in these Mars simulations, I was with people who love food and love to cook. And then I had also crewmates who they couldn't care less. So every time it was time, their time to cook, they were just making the same thing, which was pasta, the easiest thing that they could make, the most bland and easy thing they could possibly put in there. And so I think that it's a combination of both of those, just because I don't want to be left out. If we just bring the people who can eat, drink Soylent and functional food, what fun is that?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough selling space travels, right? And space missions. So I'm also curious with your spice research now. Is it with NASA or is it your own research?
This is my own research that I'm going to I want to bring into analogs as I go into the future, because I started with, looking at shelf-stable ingredients and creating my Meals for Mars cookbook. And so I've learned a lot there. But what I've realized is that because that pantry that you saw with all that variety isn't the reality of what's going to be sent. You're going to take all of that space pantry that I had here on Earth, and we're going to shrink it down to just a little bit. And so if you're not going to have as much variety, how can you stretch that variety? And that's going to be through, spices, herbs and spices. And so thinking about how we can leverage those to make meals, the same basic ingredients, taste completely different based on the spices and the herbs.
And at the moment, are you sourcing is it just you buying the herbs and spices from the supermarket, or do you?
Yeah, just local right now. Just thinking about that. But ideally, my goal is to figure out how to. I'm working on, and this is why I posed the question. Well, what are the essential spices and herbs for space? Chef William was talking about this. We can't take everything. And so what were the best things if we, is it 25, combinations of herbs and spices, and these are the essential ones? Is it possible to get down to that idea of, well, if we could only take so many, these are the ones that we really should consider?
In Indonesian, we have what it's called bumbu dasar. Bumbu dasar is like fundamental. It's different. Oh, William, where are you? It's like different kinds of seasoning herbs and spices together, and
Right.
like one's turmeric base, one's coriander. I don't know. I can't remember all of it.
No. We have to provide the all ready to use paste.
Yeah.
You don't mix match anymore.
Mm.
We have the program called one spice paste to create many variety of cooking.
I love that. Perfect.
Yeah. So just apply to add a little of the dry spice. It tend to be the other thing. You add a little of coconut powder. You make another thing. This is just to extend the taste profile from one mixtures of ingredients. We because we have mixed match of fresh spice pastes ground into paste and has to be cooked. Otherwise, you taste raw. If you don't cook it, you don't boil it. It tastes raw. So this spice that we normally region by region have a different type of composition of making those. So they will be very easy to apply.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first real step is, combining what you're just saying about those pastes and being able to just change the add one or two things to change it with the freeze dried to and sauteing up some amazing meals living in a Mars formulation.
Yeah, the concept is like in the very old days, the beginning of colors. We will only have 5 colors, right? So now maybe 10,000 colors.
Yeah.
So you just mix match. You play. Once you know the individual profile, then you can play around.
Yes, exactly. And then that's the key right there.
Okay. And what is the latest status from at least the NASA Space Food Research Laboratory on this space food preparation to the Mars?
That's a good question. Right now, it's still the basic is just add water and heat meals. I haven't seen, of course they're very interested in new technologies and the potential of using them, but I haven't seen anything yet official for what the moon is going to look like, because you got to keep in mind when we first go back to the moon, we're going to go for a couple of days. Most likely they're going to keep it very similar where it's just add water and heat. It's only when we actually have an established established settlement on the moon, that's when things can become more culinary interested, I guess you'd say, because you build a habitat with the kitchen, and what does that look like, and what about a space oven, and so these are things that will be answered, but we're still a little ways away from that, because we just need to put the first female footprints on the moon first, and then think about the habitat and staying on the moon.
And also,
how is the water issue?
The water again is going to be they recycle most of the water, like on the ISS. But again, they're going to be looking at ways to use materials, ideally from the rocks and stuff, to be able to make water. And so if you've got the right kind of rocks and stuff, and you can break it into its elements, then you can make water. At the moon, at Mars will be a lot easier, because you have a carbon dioxide atmosphere, and then rocks that will have materials that you can use to be able to make water and things.
How about during the 6-month flight?
Oh, it'll be just like on the ISS, everything that goes in comes out, and so you just recycle that.
But with the stop at the moon and the potential of having water from the moon.
Yeah, exactly. In the crater, especially thinking about some of those crater regions, and so
And the asteroids, if that is ever
yeah.
possible.
But and then also going to Mars and looking at water just below the you know, surface, the ground. And
What about the Korolev crater?
the actual geology, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, because it's like it's ice thick water, and then
Yeah.
maybe we can also.
Well, a lot of that is just looking at landing sites and can we get there, and is it a good place to actually settle down? And so there's a lot of considerations.
So just a personal question, like, why do you choose to focus on food? I mean, your background is geology, you're a geosciences professor, and then amongst many, many things, right? Because usually they would pick on the rockets but food, why specifically food? And we all know that that's the most important logistics to prepare.
Well, I think it's because from an early age, I've always been a foodie. And I mean, from a very early, one of the things that I loved to do was to, you know, cook. As a kid, I was cooking and baking from age probably 8, 9, making my own meals by the time I was a teenager. And so food has always been something that I've enjoyed, the chemistry, the science behind it, all of those things. Even though I'm not officially trained as a chef, I've enjoyed the culinary experience, and then having the unique opportunity to investigate food strategies for long duration space flight really got me to think more about not just the process of bringing interesting ingredients together, but the culture and psychology of eating, and why it's important. And so as a teacher, I'm a professor and I teach geoscience, but I'm really a science education researcher. And so my PhD is in curriculum instruction, science education. So I like to think about how people learn and how they interact with things, whether it's geology, food, but the psychology of learning is really where my PhD lies in.
Oh, okay. And what was
I fully agree with Dr. Sian, because a cook with a different major, different background will create better food than just cooking for a good taste, you know, because food has a lot of aspects.
Right.
But some is only based on recipe. You cook from the recipe. But if you have a few different major and involved in food, you can see through many aspects, not only just cooking. So I always believe the chef with the different background will be the better chef.
especially if you're in the team, like with Heston Blumenthal, and for the cooking for all the NASA astronauts, has to be some Indonesian rendang, right? In Indonesia,
Yeah, we have to create. Yeah, it's a lot of aspects. It's totally different. It's not like it's not like creating food like what we expect to have a fine food, to have a comfort food, to have whatever food you like on the earth. But a lot of consideration, a lot of aspect, and all the participants who go to the moon, they have to change their food mindset.
They do.
They can't just base on what they are having on the earth.
is it also that's why you've been training starting from now on, Dr. Sian? Because you have to get used to it, right? It takes a while for your body to adapt, and like me trying to be vegetarian, it takes a while, you know.
Exactly. And so those are things to consider. And again, you cannot predict how your palate is going to change in the reduced gravity environment specifically. And so learning to get past some of the psychological barriers of food. And so I think one of the things again is being not knowing what you're eating and just being put and really being able to take something, like they said, blindfold it and put it in your mouth and eat it just for the sensations and the flavors and the textures and the smells, and decide independent of everything else whether you like it or not. And then that's one thing. And then the other thing is, well, how nutritional is it for you? And does it provide all of the things that you need to be healthy? And so there's that healthy, functional body kind of thing. And then there's the satisfaction from a psychological standpoint when you strip away the cultural barriers of like not wanting to eat insects or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the same thing. This is the same thing when I do, for instance, a food tour for Indonesian. The first type they jump into, when they land, the first step they went into the bus, the first briefing I said, forget about your Indonesian taste profile. You have to clear your mind and experience a new challenge in taste.
Right.
Otherwise, they will everywhere, they will bring their chili sauce.
Oh yeah, chili sauce, exactly.
Yeah, they always have to bring their chili sauce, whatever they eat, they have to add. It's a mindset.
It is.
They're
I
not
wanna
experienced. Yeah, they're not trying to experience. But they have to you have to guide them to experience whatever you like it, whatever you don't like it, but you have to taste it first.
Yes.
And you have to totally change your mindset.
Yes. And that's not easy to do for a lot of people. And so that's one of the things that it's good to have these conversations, because it gets you thinking about next time you go out and someone offers you to try something, why are you not trying it? If you've never tasted it before, what's stopping you from eating that insect cookie?
But once through this social media, it changed a lot of people mindset on when they want to try new things. They want to try some other things.
Right.
And they want to, when they travel, that's why now everywhere you goes, you click local food tour, they pop up. You can choose a program what the local food like.
There's
It
a
sounds
funny
delicious.
story. There's a chef from Papua. Have you heard of Chef
Charles Toto.
Toto? Yeah. So he's an interesting chef, doctor. He goes. His supermarket is the jungle. It's the forest. So yeah. So he never buys anything from the supermarket, but he go to forest and he sees whatever available, and then that's what he's going to cook. So going camping with him is, like, you'll be eating snakes or you'll be eating whatever it is that he finds, and but he's amazing. And so in Papua we have sago worm. He's like
Sago worm.
fat, short, white, and that's the local delicacy as well. Yeah, they would fry it. I think they would fry it, and
It's actually my favorite sago worm. They're the sweetest and fattiest.
And it's high in protein for
Insect
sure, right? So one time, Charles got an invitation to cook in Jakarta, and he brought the worm. He made it through past the airline, but when he stayed in the hotel, the housekeeping threw it away. So when he was back, he was like, "Oh no, they took all my worms. I can't cook." And he's supposed to cook for all these people, VIP, like Mas Yori. He's a famous architect, and he usually invite all of these people, right? So from time to time, Chato will fly to Jakarta, and my friend will invite a lot of people, and he will cook traditionally, like with stones and whatever, and he will bring the worm. there's this one time he said like he brought all the worms and the housekeeping, he came back, I think he went outside, he came back and he was gone. And the housekeeping thought it was like, why are there worms in the room? We took them to the supermarket. He got confused. He like, my supermarket is the jungle. so interesting character as well, and lovely food from him. Would be interesting as well when his knowledge of the forest as well, right? And like, oh, what would be essential to bring to space. So just to wrap up, as we've gone over time, what would be the key, what would be the wisdom that you can share to all of us, having learned all of this and continue to learn, and your hope for your own project, Meals from Mars? Of course, from Indonesia, I personally believe we can contribute from the herbs and spices and the cuisines and farming, space farming and the space medicine. But your own self, or your Meals from Mars and the project in the future, the wisdom you can share, and your hopes and dreams.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe that Indonesia has a place to role to play in space, and particularly food. And I think that having conversations like this is a first step. And not only that, but a lot of times you can already start doing, and you're already doing the research in this area. You've got the people like Dr. Martien and Mush'ab. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, Mush'ab. But doing interesting things when it comes to food, and thinking about, well, how could this be applied in space? Not only in space, but how does it make us more sustainable here on Earth? Because those things go hand in hand. And I think thinking about setting up mini analog researches, habitat, that would be easy to do. And in fact, to some extent, we're all analog astronauts right now, because we're all self-isolating at home around the world as COVID, and running our own little kind of simulations, as you would. And so thinking about how to become flight ready through analog astronaut research and food, that's an easy thing to set up, because you just need a place, a habitat, and people, and you've got everything else.
So when do you think we'll get to the moon and Mars?
Well, ideally, Mars is an interesting one, because you've got Elon Musk, who he could just we don't know what he's going to send and how many people and when. So he's a bit of a wild card. But if you're looking at NASA, ideally 2024 is when they want to have, the first female on the moon. Whether they hit that date or not will depend. For the United States, we've got an election year. How much money is going to be put into the space agency to move that initiative forward. But ideally, within the next 4 to 6 years, I would like to see us having gone back to the moon with the idea of staying. And then for Mars, we're looking probably 10 years out at the earliest. If we are successful with the moon, all it takes is one accident or incident, and that sets us back years.
Sure. Interesting, fascinating. So I think that's it for tonight for you in Arizona, and lunchtime for us. I don't know who's eating insects, not me. But would love to take a picture before everybody leaves. But
That'd be great.
William, can you turn on your camera again? Are you still there? Is he still there? Otherwise, I'll just take one.
I think he is. He might have stepped away for a second, but
1, 2, 3. Where is he? William, we want to take a picture. But his microphone is not on.
But I mean, I really think that there is a lot of talk about space for everyone. And what that means is literally everyone around the world, access to space has been limited to a few. But how do we open that up? And commercial space flight is one way to do that, but also thinking about how you as a nation can become flight ready and your citizens can become flight ready. And again, it's these conversations and the type of research that you can do around things that you're passionate about, like food, are the ways in which, you know, you get people ready.
Yeah, for sure, because that's another long topic. We don't have an astronaut program. We don't have a rocket. You know, our rocket program is really much not going anywhere. But
well, the thing about it is that you don't need the government to do that. I lived for 2 weeks in a moon simulation in Poland. You know, group of people got together and said, we're going to create a habitat. And they have people in it. And then I did a virtual Mars simulation with Habitat Marte, which is in Brazil, where a professor put that together. And it was
I'm gonna catch up with him too. Jose something.
Yeah, Jose.
Jose. Yeah. Would love to do that in Indonesia for Indonesians.
Yes, exactly.
To do like Mars simulation. So
and it's just finding the space and the location to be able to do that, and then what kind of research you'd want to bring in. And it would be cool to bring in the insects and the food preservation and you know, the cooking and all of those things.
Well, I'm in Bali already. Come to Bali. Okay. Huh? Oh, William, I think he's gone for lunch. Yeah, I'm hungry too. So thank you so much. And just a reminder that we have just for us Indonesians, we will follow this up to focus group discussion. It's scheduled to be 2 o'clock. No, we'll have lunch first, right? And because we started late and now we're overtime, so give us an hour. So about 3:30, and then we'll log on again. Slamet, bebek goreng, slamet. Oh my God, that's what it's fried. And the name is Haji Slamet. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sian. This is specifically for space food, but perhaps we can do another one on the geology or analog astronauts. I'm sure the Indonesian audience, we have a lot of space enthusiasts here, but we don't have enough access and resources to space educators and space leaders. So that's why it's always nice to reach out and have someone from the US educate us about it.
Sounds great. I would love to come back.
And the freeze-dried products that you have always on your show, maybe we can also learn, because I don't know whether people sell freeze-dried products here, but it would probably be interesting, like if we can contact that company and then maybe William can have access to the freeze-dried fruit that you're experimenting with, so we can start.
No, I would love that. I would love to come to Indonesia and meet all of you and cook with William and do
So it'll be interesting. Okay,
I did that in Stockholm a couple of years ago, where I went to Stockholm for a food fest, and that was fantastic. So absolutely.
Yeah, Indonesians are a big foodie. So again, you don't want to miss out the foodie in the group. Especially if you're going to space, like that's the most important person, right? Like every party you go where there's food.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, have a great day.
Have a good evening. Thank you so much. Guys, see you later. Mush'ab, have a great lunch. See you later. Thank you, everybody. See you all. Bye. See you in the FGD. Bye. Bye.